run. Great Magician, dramatic spread front. Here's the wire, spun to run, front on.
Here's War of Will, and he got to an opening on the inside of the gate pole, but nothing stood in his way. War of Will won the Preakness.
Improbable clear by 3. They will not get to Improbable. Improbable and Drayton Van Dyke take the shared belief stakes.
But Mr. Money has kicked clear, running down to the furlong pole, and Mr. Money is 5 in front. Mr. Money adding the West Virginia Derby to his burgeoning resume.
The Street Band is beginning to move away, and this will be a signature moment for Street Band. Street Band wins the Cotillion just over 2 at the end. What a finish in the Pennsylvania Derby. Here comes Matt Wizard on the far outside. Matt Wizard, Mr. Money. Matt Wizard on the outside. Matt Wizard, yes sir.
And on the outside in the dark silks, it's Cortland Simmons blasting to the front of the podcast world to give you the recap of the $1 million Pennsylvania Derby. Grade 1, 9 furlongs at Parks Racing. A great race. Only 6 3-year-olds entered, but at the end it was the 30-1 shot, and Math Wizard coming through on the outside, as I aforementioned in describing myself, blasting past the leaders on the outside to capture the Pennsylvania Derby by a neck in 150.94 over Mr. Money, who was second, 1 length in front of War Will, who was a nose in front of the favorite Improbable out of the Bob Baffert stable. A fantastic performance, as Nick Luck described it, overcoming a pedestrian pace in this race. 24.20 for the first quarter, 49.30 as the race caller so accurately announced a very slow first half, the 49.30, 113.20 for the 3 quarters, and this is when Math Wizard began to sort of make his move, sensing that the pace was a little bit slow and that the others weren't streaking away, was able to come on the outside in the widest part of the racetrack, which made it obvious he was the best horse in the race, to beat Mr. Money, who inherited the lead when Improbable, once again with his gate antics, wasn't able to come out alertly, was parked behind other horses, but ended up getting a ground-saving trip. Even if you don't think the inside was the best place to be, he nevertheless saved ground, had an opportunity to punch hard, wasn't able to keep up, or he certainly didn't take off with the acceleration you'd like to win a race like this. He was in 4th place, but again, on that turn at the 113.20 mark is when Math Wizard came on the outside and slowly but surely was able to make not only inches but yards to win this race. For trainer Safi A. Joseph Jr., a 3rd-generation conditioner. He's also part of the ownership group. Irad Ortiz Jr., the winning rider, was called in. His services were called upon to ride Math Wizard, who was 6th in the West Virginia Derby, to Mr. Money coming into this event, but he had run very well in the Ohio Derby. That was the one race that I thought did show that the 1 1/8 seemingly was a good distance for him, and probably a lot of people were disappointed he didn't run as well at Mountaineer. But he comes back in here. His trainer said that maybe perhaps he was a little bit dulled or a little fatigued by what happened, maybe underestimated that, I'm paraphrasing, and he was able to get the spacing that he'll get from this race to the Breeders' Cup Classic, which he punched a ticket for with a winning year in triumph in this race. So the spacing from the Pennsylvania Derby to the Breeders' Cup is the same as it was from the West Virginia Derby to the Pennsylvania Derby. So that should serve Math Wizard well, along with those who believe he's going forward, that he'll get a better pace scenario going 1.25 miles if he wants that added distance in the Breeders' Cup Classic. The only thing is, as Jerry Bailey said many times, come from behinders. It's hard for them to win often. I'm also paraphrasing here, because you do have to overcome both pace and traffic, or the lack thereof in a lot of cases. And again, there's going to be more traffic. There's certainly going to be more quality, but to the extent and the level of that quality is going to definitely be determined on the day of the World Thoroughbred Championships as to how these horses will perform. Some of the contenders, will they perform in the late part of November, October, early November, as they did in their best efforts coming into that? And some of these horses hopefully will be running their best races in their final preps. McKenzie, one of the top candidates amongst the older horses, will be running in the Awesome again. Let's see how he fares. Top horses, 3-year-olds and older horses alike, will be competing in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Will those type of efforts be the type of optimum level ones that will elevate and catapult these horses to great efforts in the Breeders' Breeders' Cup, and Math Wizard is going to have to play a little bit of a waiting game to see how that all goes while he continues to hopefully progress forward. What does this say about the 3-year-old division? Most people are going to believe that Mr. Money, who was sort of a borderline Breeders' Cup Classic winner, he and Improbable and possibly War Will probably looking more like Breeders' Cup dirt mile horses than classic horses. I don't think a lot of people are going to be making future wagers or on these horses to impact the Breeders' Cup, including the winner. So that's going to be one of the more interesting phenomenons as far as this Pennsylvania Derby goes. People still believe, and I don't believe Maximum Security is going to make it to the Breeders' Cup, but a lot of people believe that between him and Code of Honor and some of the Travers horses, that Code of Honor defeated, Mucho Gusto, Tacitus Tax, those are your prime candidates for the Breeders' Cup Classic amongst the sophomores. So with that being said, I think that Math Wizard is certainly a horse that you have to like. I'm not a real, big stickler for dead closers or deep closers. It'll be interesting to see if in the Breeders' Cup Classic, if the opportunity presents itself, or if in the training and leading up to it, that he will be a little more forwardly placed, even despite the added distance and the likely more lively pace scenario versus what happened here. And will that take away his finishing punch? If he's a horse that's conditioned and he's a horse that is tailor-made for the 1.25 miles, he should be able to adjust his tactics, because I do believe even with a better pace setup that he's not going to be able to come from 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 lengths off to win this race, simply because the stalk and pouncers and to some degree the front runners are going to be better, and they're going to be more likely, someone is going to be more likely to run a monster race. You have to really be dependent upon a complete pace meltdown, and that's not always going to happen in any kind of graded stakes events. Mind you, the Breeders' Cup Classic at the highest level for the millions of dollars that are going to be doled out in this race. So again, a very good effort by Math Wizard. He wins the 2019 Pennsylvania Derby in 150.94 for trainer Safi A. Joseph, for Irad Ortiz Jr. in the irons, punching his ticket to the Breeders' Cup World Thoroughbred Championships. Math Wizard, the winner of the 2019 Pennsylvania Derby over Mr. Money, with the Mark Cassie trained War of Will third, and Improbable for Bob Baffert finishing fourth.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Math Wizard trying to spring a big upset on the far outside. Improbable saving ground all the way, looking to come through on the inside. It's Mr. Money off the turn in the lead. Mr. Money in front. Smoking on the outside. Improbable up the inside. War Will in between horses. Math Wizard on the far outside.